In the next few minutes, you're going to hear an unbelievable story about how the Metronet was conceived, how it was initially put in place, and what it's doing today. It's a phenomenal story.
In the late 90s and very early 2000s, we had a severe lack of bandwidth for data transmission in our region.
If you look back 10 years or longer, the business community were paying 3 to 4 times the amount of cost to move information around as, say, Chicago and Detroit was. And we could not afford to sit back, pay high rates, and have very slow access.
As we spent time on this issue, we were very surprised to find that we had a competition issue. The access point was restricted, so while we had all sorts of assets to tap into, we couldn't get to them. We were losing bids for new businesses to come to the community. We were also losing opportunities to retain existing folks who were trying to expand.
In 1995, we moved out to Blackthorn Corporate Park. Beautiful new building, beautiful park, but we also reinvented ourselves around the internet in 1995. By 97, we were working with Whirlpool Corporation, IBM, Norelco. We needed more bandwidth to service those kinds of clients, and we just didn't have it. So by 97, I had to start thinking about moving to Chicago because we had so much more bandwidth and technology there. And we couldn't do that in 97 here. We could do that business here in South Bend today.
The St. Joseph County Chamber of Commerce and Project Future at the time were concerning themselves with how our region, how St. Joseph County could be competitive in the 21st century. We started out with the Technology Task Force.
We were looking at what can we do to make the whole region more technologically friendly. Attracting the right people and having the infrastructure were really important parts of what we talked about.
We knew that we needed new infrastructure. What did it need to look like? It needed to be dark fiber, which meant that service providers or companies could light it themselves in order to meet their own needs. As we planned for the infrastructure, Bob Urbanski was asked to join our group, and he brought a great perspective because he introduced how we could incorporate municipal resources, mainly conduit, into the system. He brought the public to the private partnership. It was a great add because it reduced our costs significantly.
We were really building the infrastructure, the pathways, the connectivity between businesses within the community. And then more importantly, our existing businesses, our small internet service providers, to get a leg up on the platform so that they would grow and prosper and of course stay here.
As we moved forward with the planning, we understood that there were a large number of major carriers that we hoped to tap into. Number two, we understood we could get to them, initially because of Union Station and later because of others such as Data Realty. Thirdly, we hoped that people would use it, but we had no idea what benefit it represented to all of the businesses across this community.
As we got into the late 90s, we started to look more and more into research. And in the 2000s, near to 2010, we blossomed as a research university, and the network, the international network, the Metronet, became just a basic fundamental building block to that aspiration. It allows our researchers to partner with people they could never partner with. So we can have the best physicists here at Notre Dame collaborate with the best physicists in Switzerland or in Africa or anywhere in the world. And this connectivity through Metronet allows us to do that.
Basically, healthcare is in the information business. The last 10 or 15 years has seen an explosion in medical imaging. And so the Metronet really became essential to the way we practice medicine, the way we're able to take high technology and harness it to make sure that we have the complete picture of someone's health. The Metronet is always there, it's always on, it's always efficient, it's always effective, and it's very, very cost effective for everyone.
One of the big challenges that all of us schools are facing right now is how do we get all our students up and online looking at resources throughout the day. You might be talking about 500-600 students online at the same time.
Having a vendor-neutral system in your community for a public works director or city engineer means instead of have 22 competing telecommunication companies all run their independent little strands of fiber all over the right-of-way, we just have them all in one 2-inch conduit. That's a huge advantage for just orderly management of the public right-of-way.
I firmly believe that we wouldn't have some of the significant economic growth that we have had without the Metronet being part of it. From a city standpoint, we've been able to reduce our costs, both from an internet provider standpoint and also from our phone system. The higher levels of speed allowed us to do the voice over IP that was able to then reduce our bills, and really that's what it's all about, is trying to do more with less. We couldn't foresee a future without it. I think that is the biggest story.
Our initial underwriters brought to us dollars and momentum. We were ready to move forward with the project very quickly, but they brought one very important thing in addition to that. They established a framework for us to operate and to build a system that were consistent with carrier-grade standards, the highest standard that you're going to have for any system. Mishawaka was engaging us in conversations, as were other people from across the region. It was very clear that this needed to move from an operation that was being run out of Project Future into something that was freestanding with its own executive director, and Mary Jan Hedman was the perfect person at the perfect time.
I joined St. Joe Valley Metronet in 2008, and it was just at the beginning of the Great Recession. And despite the economic condition, we experienced fantastic subscriber growth. In fact, from 2008 until 2012, we saw on average a 49% growth in the subscriber base. So there was an obvious need for the kind of service that Metronet offered. And because of the subscriber base growth, we were able to continue to expand the network footprint. A few examples of the kind of expansion that we had were in Mishawaka, which was attributable to another one of our underwriters. We grew south of South Bend along Ireland Road and Ironwood, and we filled in certain areas such as around the airport. And this allowed us then to reach more organizations and then continue to have more subscribers. It was around 2009 when we started to see some new business models emerge. One of them was a shared circuit model that was provided by service providers. So the service providers would actually lease the fiber from us, and then they would connect multiple organizations, giving them just the amount of bandwidth that they needed. These were organizations that didn't need a full gig of bandwidth. But if they did need more, it was very easy for the service provider to increase their service without adding a lot of costly changes. nCloud is a variation of the shared circuit model that's designed specifically for the nonprofits.
nCloud is basically an information technology shared services organization that services nonprofits with an intent to allow those nonprofits to focus on their missions, their real missions, instead of technology headaches. For the 14 or 15 nonprofits joined on the Metronet, that there's a savings of over $250,000 each year by joining the Metronet and sharing in services.
In 2014, we started an initiative to connect more of the K-12 schools. We started a grant application. So far, we have extended one grant to Trinity School at Greenlawn. In addition, we're very excited now that we're in 2015. By the end of this year, we're going to complete a new build out to PHM schools on Bittersweet Road.
Our partnership with Metronet Zing has made our entire technology life and our curricular life at Trinity School easier. But it also opened our eyes to other possibilities, things we could deliver to the students that we didn't think were possible or didn't even think about before we started talking to Metronet and started teaming up with them.
2014 was a notable year for St. Joe Valley Metronet because this was the year that we expanded our network beyond St. Joseph County. We built nearly 30 miles of fiber through Lakeville, La Paz, and Plymouth. These communities were seeing the same problems that South Bend and Mishawaka had been seeing for years. There was a limited number of providers. The cost for bandwidth was very high. So they were looking for an economic development tool, again, just like we did in St. Joseph County.
This will allow organizations from the smallest to the largest size within Marshall County to easily be able to connect to data centers in St. Joe County or elsewhere. We've been able to accelerate the rate of implementation of technology because we now have access to significantly larger bandwidth than what we had before. So it's been a tremendous benefit to both St. Joe Regional Medical Center and to Trinity Health. We're projecting right now that we'll save in the vicinity of $150,000 to $200,000 a year.
I'd wager to say that not all of the businesses in this area understood how much the toll road was going to benefit their business when it came through northern Indiana. Had a huge impact. The Metronet is the same thing. It's a big deal for many of our businesses today, but we've barely scratched the surface. It's going to be an even bigger deal for all of the communities and the businesses across this region.
So what's taken place over the last 10 plus years has been a great accomplishment, and it's not because of the effort of just a couple of people. There has been contribution in energy and support from so many different organizations, from so many different parties. So what's happened is nothing less than phenomenal. I want to thank all of you for your contribution, and I look forward to working with you as we continue our successful journey.